Sakky, we're live, man.
Yeah.
Pleasure to have you here. And yeah, today you're the protagonist. So why don't you start by making a brief introduction for those that don't know you about yourself?
Yeah.
And yeah,
So, firstly, thank you for having me, Ivan. As I was already telling you, it's been a long time that I've done something like this. It
Mhm.
reminds me of my competitive days. So, firstly, let me quickly introduce me. I'm Saksham Ratan. I'm a civil engineer. I am from India, who had a passion for esports and gaming and decided to give it a try. In that trial year, I happened to win international events in Malaysia, and then I got signed with one of the biggest organizations in Turkey, and that is when I decided I'm going to make this full time. So for the past 8 years, I've been a professional in esports, and as everyone says, you need to be able to wear multiple hats. That is what I've done in esports. I've had my time as an esports athlete, in which I've played for some of the biggest organizations in the world, like Mumbai City Football Club. I was also part of the Indian national team, and I've played at two different FIFAe World Cups, both in Saudi Arabia in 2023 and 2024.
Mhm.
Then I was also a coach helping a lot of players. One of them did reach World Cup. I was also a streamer, and then I was also hosting my own events back home in India because a lot of events don't happen in South Asia. So I wanted to uplift my community, and that is how I ended up hosting my events for which I earned sponsorship. I did my marketing. So basically, I did a lot of things in esports because of my passion.
Yeah,
And now I'm in Barcelona. I did my master's in esports and gaming business, through which I now happen to work with you at Esportian, and I'm super excited to continue with that.
yeah. I mean, in the first like minutes, we already have him making like an emoji. Atan Ratan as well. Wayne Suarez says that you're
Yeah,
also a successful streamer, so
yeah,
so don't forget about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And yet, like about that intro that you mentioned, like
yeah.
how did you handle like civil engineering and being a pro esports player?
Right.
Because
Yeah. As you're already mentioning, Ajay Ratan, he's my father, so he's here. He can vouch for whatever I say.
okay,
So yeah. So thing with India is like in order to dream, I would say you need to first have a backup plan. So a
Mhm.
backup plan in India would be either be an engineer, doctor, or a lawyer. So I- during my engineering days, I happened to come across my PlayStation where I started playing, and I won an event as I mentioned. But in my case, my parents were super supportive, and especially my elder brother, he told me I should give a go for 1 year. The issue was it was super challenging because even right now, esports in India is not as developed. Imagine doing that 8 years ago. So there were friends, families who didn't understand what I was doing, like they thought I'm just playing video games for time
Mhm.
pass and barely making any money. So I had this pressure that, like my family is giving me this opportunity to do something that I really love. I should not waste that opportunity. Yes, it was super tiring. Yes, it was super, super difficult for most parts, but I know that I had a few core people who were super supportive of me and something that I want. I had a clear vision. So and as they say, like if you're doing something you're passionate about, you'll not be working a single day in life. So last 8 years, I didn't feel like that. And yeah, it was super challenging, I won't deny. But by God's grace, I could do a lot of things that I had hoped for.
Yeah, and especially if you have your family support, that's like
Yeah.
way important. Not always like pro players or even semi-pro players
Yeah.
have that support for the family or understand.
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes that lack of information from parents like make them because they always want the best for you. But if they understand and their support
Yeah.
and they want the best
Yeah.
for you, so amazing, man, amazing. Lucky to have a dad like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, what made you like? When was the turning point? Like, when you were like, okay, like I've had my 8 years as a pro. Now it's time to do, a master's in esports and gaming in Barcelona.
Oh,
Like, when was that turning point? Yeah.
no, that is a really good question. Like as an athlete, it is super difficult to, accept that you may not want to compete. I was just having a word with one of my friends who also works at Esportian, was my classmate. I was just telling, have I retired really, or am I still active? Like it is super difficult to put that stamp that nah, you're not gonna compete. Maybe if there's an event, I would try. But yeah, so for Masters, there was so much progress happening in the Middle East with Esports World Cup, and if you're aware about how in Abu Dhabi they're trying to create an esports island, so I realized that there is a lot of development happening in Middle East while it was already super developed in North Americas and Europe. So I felt like there are gonna be a lot of opportunities. I had experience of an athlete. I did complete my bachelor's in civil engineering. So I thought that if I could also put in a master degree in esports and gaming business, I'll sort of be a complete package for people in the future. So I was looking at courses and I wanted to move to Europe, if I'm being very honest, more than North America. And that is why I decided to come to Barcelona. Uh, while it was not an easy decision to, move, it was an easy decision that I wanted to do because, as I said, like I'm super passionate about esports and gaming. I wanted to pursue further. I wanted to move to the business side of esports and gaming, and that is why I decided that yes, I'll do it. Uh, this year felt nice because there were some last year there were some challenges in my personal life. There were some tough times. Luckily, well, I'm ahead of that. But last year was when I decided no, I need to move ahead and move into the business side of it now. Yeah.
Mm, okay. And did you learn like a lot of stuff that you didn't learn, like you didn't know before, that you applied? Like was the masters like in esports and gaming useful? What do you say? What is the most valuable thing that you got from it?
I think so. It was pretty valuable because having spent 8 years in the industry, I thought that I would know a lot of things. And when I came here, when the lectures were happening and when I was meeting industry leaders, I realized that there is so much more to learn from. Yes, having experience did help me in my case because, as I mentioned, like for most parts, you need to do everything. You need to be a content creator, you need to take care of your marketing, you need to take care of your sponsorship. So all of this experience did help me with my course. I found it more enjoyable because in my
Hmm.
engineering, since I had no experience of an engineer before, it was stressful. So I wouldn't say this was stressful as engineering, but my experience did help me in that case. I could, yes, apply all of the experience that I'd gained because a lot of the activities and a lot of our assignments involved activations. And since I had prior experience in that, it was sort of a way for me to, explore more and try more
Hmm.
difficult things, because I know where the level was before. I just wanted to see how much more I can do with that.
Okay, amazing, man. If you don't mind, we're gonna pause for a bit
Yeah,
and go to the audience.
for sure.
Like your brother made a question, and then Kevin. But let's go with
Yeah,
your brother.
yeah,
It's like, well, I think it's more of a statement. Having a brother who's a pro player is never easy. It pushed me to retire early. Even thought I just wanted to play for the love of the game. Okay, and then Kevin asks, when you hear collegiate esports in North America, NA, what do you think? Or what did you think before,
that is a
and what do you think now? Let's put it that way.
So that is a very good question because there is a
Hmm.
lot of difference from what I felt before to now. So I will
Hmm.
first talk about like specific FC slash FIFA point of view because that is where I am from. So up until when FIFA and EA Sports were together, we had a lot of opportunities. There were tournaments happening every single month, multiple of them. But unfortunately, since they've split, FIFA has now become EAFC, and after EFC, the amount of tournaments have started to reduce drastically. So, if I'm being very honest, there are not a lot of official high level tournaments that happen. Most of them happen in the first 4 months, and after that, there's a huge break. So, before, when I was playing FIFA, at that point of time, I didn't realize how important collegiate tournaments were because we had so many tournaments. But as they say, like once you lose something precious, that is when you get to know about its value. And now, if you ask me as a pro, and this is something I was telling you before too, like if I knew about how things would turn out to be now with the competitive structure, I would probably go to USA and Canada so that I could also play in the collegiate esports scene because one, it is official. Two, in a region like North America, where you've got some of the biggest organizations, where it is highly developed. If I can get a chance to showcase my talents, my abilities, uh, it's going to be great. One thing I've realized in esports, the closer you are to the right set of people, the easier it is for them to notice. And North America, while Middle East is now taking over for the past, I don't know how many years it has been North America. So it gives you a chance to get closer to some of the best organization people who have made a living out of esports. So
Yeah.
now my opinion is like if I can get an opportunity to compete in North America region while also pursue my higher education, that is what we are helping in Esportian. I would have probably moved to NA instead of Barcelona. While I probably didn't then meet you, which would be a shame. At least I'm happy I'm working with you guys. But like if I knew about this opportunity before, I'd probably go to North America.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like as you said, North America, the gaming and esports, market is massive, but
Yeah.
in the UAE, Saudi, it's growing even faster, although it's way smaller. So let's see in the near
Yeah.
future. But now, in terms of universities and esports scholarships, there's nothing much going on there. It's like, honestly, it's North America and UK maybe starting.
Yeah.
It's starting a bit, but like, the huge opportunities are there in North America. Uh, that's for sure. Um, those I think I'd put down that you touched on, like players,
Yeah.
content creation, personal brand. Do you believe that all players should, pay attention to personal brand? I'm not saying like being content creators, but personal brand, because like I see a lot of people in the circuit, pro players
Yeah.
that are players and they don't give time to social media because they see it as a, like I have to focus on
Yeah.
being only a player. Like social media is like whatever. What's your thought on that?
I mean, this is something that everyone says now, and it is a common known, I would say, fact that you should do it. Even in my case, I was not super active on social media because I thought my results will speak for me, which did. But at the same time,
Mhm.
it is important for you to let people know. As I told you, like I was doing multiple things, so it helped me, have this image of trust because I was hosting events, I was doing streams, I was being honest with a lot of people, helping them in their careers. So in my case, luckily, with all those opportunities that I created for myself, I could sort of create a brand while it may not be visible on social media, even though I've got decent following on most social media, roughly around 10,000, including all. But it could have been more if I put in efforts earlier. So I would, and we were in our university trip in Berlin too, and I met a player in Team Heretics House who was a League of Legends player, by the way. And he was a very smart guy, and a good player. And I was asking him, "Are you focusing on your social media and streaming?" He told me the same thing that I was saying 3 years back. No, let me focus on my results. And while leaving, I just told him one thing that we've got a very short career as an esports athlete. It is very important for us to accept that. And the sooner we accept that, the faster we realize how we need to also be able to do multiple things. It helps you become sort of a ready product in like with the current market situation where it is super difficult to get job. You need to be able to do multiple things all at once. So I think so
Yeah.
once you start doing multiple things from an early age, you get comfortable with situations like these is what I feel. And that is why I say that you should focus on not just social media but maybe
Hmm.
streams, maybe doing something for the community who's helping you.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Also, having put another question, studying with you in Barcelona was really fun. Going to miss it, but I think you should talk also about some misconceptions about professional esports that you learned by being part of it.
Oh,
Misconceptions.
that is a very good question. Yes, Kevin and I were classmates. Kevin is also super passionate about gaming. So this is something we've discussed a lot, and we discuss with people too. Like what do you think about an esports athlete? And a lot of people think that we'd probably spend 10 hours inside in our room getting no sun, which is also true. But they probably think that we are not someone who's able to talk to people, who's not
Mm.
easy in social gathering. Uh, and This is something that, it is super difficult to change unless you get to meet such people. I've realized that if I mean, I've spent 8 years as an esports athlete, and I'm talking to you right now. Clearly not so uncomfortable in this situation. So,
Hmm.
there's this stereotype of how an esports athlete would not be able to do that. So there are a lot of misconceptions. One thing that is true that yes, once we get this opportunity, we try to put in a lot of energy and effort to it in order to become the best. And if that
Hmm.
requires us to spend a lot of time in front of screen, we would do it because at the end of the day, if we are gonna get rewarded for our hard work in esports, the rewards are high. It's insanely high the amount of money one could earn. So while it is a misconception that yes, we may not be uh, we may not be someone who would be easy in a social situation. Uh, I do believe that if someone is getting rewarded, like if let's say example, like if you're working in a sales job, if you're gonna get rewarded for putting for finishing X amount of job, you might earn 20,000 US dollars, so 50,000 US dollars. Why would you not do that? The only issue is like people think that since it is video games, that it is not cool. But if you know that you can get rewarded for doing something that you like, they would probably put in extra hours. They'll probably put in extra amount of time to, and achieve all of those things. That is what I feel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's for sure. And especially uh, now, like players also, like nutrition, they work out as well.
Yeah,
Like the image also changed, and all the skills that you mentioned, that's the typical image that that a pro player has. Like all these skills you can learn. Like for example, me, like when I was trying to communicate or transmit,
yeah,
like I don't know, like 8, 9 years ago. Okay, like it's nothing compared to like now with all the calls with families and students that I had, in traditional sports and esports and all
yeah.
that. And it's things that you develop. Yeah, but yeah.
No,
Also,
that's a valid point that you mentioned. Sorry to cut you. Like, since Kevin mentioned it, like Kevin's a good friend of mine, so I have to bring this up. Kevin
yeah.
has been training, is a trained tennis player. He trained for 7 years. I was not a trained tennis player, but I was in esports for 8 years. We played a game of paddle, which may not be tennis. I did beat him. So if there was this misconception of, like you're not active, how did I beat someone who's training for professional tennis?
I didn't know that Calvin was, into tennis. Like I also would like. Well, I went to study abroad with the tennis scholarship in the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe our next Esportian, like get together is gonna be like a mix of paddle and tennis.
A sports meetup has to be a sports meetup.
Amazing, amazing. Also, Marilyn mentioned it's not just social media, it's in person too. The talent just doesn't interact with their fans. They get directed by the event people to stick with their own agendas, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
So
Should
I think
in-person interaction be a thing? Also, behind the scenes of like the content creation, teams should pay attention to behind the scenes content for fans to know more about the players.
that is a
What's your
very
opinion on that?
valid point. I think so. That's a valid point, and this is something that I've been mentioning even on my LinkedIn post. I didn't post in a while, but this is something that I've been mentioning how it is important for the fans to get an authentic relation with the players. If you're just doing
Hmm.
brand activations, the sponsor activations, just posting on Instagram or YouTube, I think so. It is very difficult to form that, real connection with someone. That is only possible if you get to see that person in real time. Like there's this example talking about Kevin, he brings up about Los Ratones, their team in League of Legends, and one of the most
Hmm.
viewed League of Legends team. What are they doing? They're streaming their scrims. Uh, it feels like they're just chilling, a group of friends chilling, and then as soon as match comes up, they're logged in playing. So people also want to see how you are when you're not competing, and I think so. And it is a very difficult spot too, as we were also discussing in our team meeting previously about how Team Liquid had Honda as their sponsor, and they had to drop I mean, Honda had to drop Team Liquid partnership. So there's this thin line where players also need to understand, like, you need to be authentic, you need to be showing real emotions, but up until what point? Because after you cross that very thin line, it could lead to repercussions for not just you, for your team, and then it's a very difficult spot. So that is a valid point, as Mary mentioned, and I do agree. Like, players could have those, if players can get the opportunity to have authentic interaction with the fans, it'll be easier for them to um, sort of create those bonding on emotional level. But then, yet again, like, you can't take guarantee of a player of what he'll say and what not. So
Yeah,
it's something that we need organize. I mean, teams need to help the players, and players also need to understand, is what I feel.
yeah. Because on average, okay, I'm not gonna say like, of course, Team Liquids,
Yeah,
and other teams, but like on average, like in esports, fans of teams, how many teams have like real fans? It's
yeah,
more like they
yeah.
follow a player in that team, and that or what do you think about that?
I think so. It is true. And one thing in esports that we've realized is, like, unlike traditional sports, like, for example, a lot of people follow Ronaldo. So Ronaldo moved to Juventus. Suddenly, you saw surge in Juventus fans. He moved to
Mhm.
Saudi. Saudi football is getting coverage. That is something that you don't see in esports. And we've seen in multiple cases where teams have tried to sign some of the most famous esports athletes, content creators, in the hope that the fan base that these players slash content creators created would join the team's fan base. That somehow doesn't happen. And I think so it won't happen because the reason for that player or creator, the reason for them to get famous was probably they created that authentic relationship that we were just mentioning about. And when you try to, get those fans to your team, it's yet again going to be like social media interactions or uh, activations which fail to, uh,
Mhm.
capture those emotions, is what I feel.
Okay. Okay. We have your brother here. I would love to hear your thoughts on how you initially started by creating your own competitions and building a platform that gave opportunities to so many sport players. That's the thing that I wanted to touch on. Nice one.
Yeah.
How did you transition from those early efforts to eventually collaborating with big brands like Red Bull and other major organizations, considering that the esports ecosystem in India was still very new and not fully established at that time, and knowing how challenging it can be to build something like this in our
Okay.
time?
That is a very good question, and I would love to talk about that. So, as I was mentioning, when I decided to pursue esports professionally, that was
Mhm.
around 2019. At that point of time, the game that I played was FIFA. FIFA. India was not eligible to compete at global level. So luckily, through the efforts of players like me and a couple of other guys who got signed with international organizations, that is when EA Sports took notice of us while we were also performing on the global leaderboards. That is when they took notice of us. So one thing that I realized is, like, if you can show them true efforts with your numbers, could be like wins or anything, people do take notice. So what my idea at that point of time was, like, since I've already done something, contributed at a very small level to the Indian esports ecosystem, why don't I try to host events which will help other aspiring esports athlete to get a chance to compete with international players, which was not possible at that
Mhm.
time. And luckily, I was competing internationally. I had those connections from different parts of the region, be it in Asia or Middle East, while that was not possible for other people in India. My aim was to uplift my Indian esports community because my idea was, like, if everyone's doing well, then everyone will eat well. I just didn't want
Mhm.
me to be able to, be at the top because, as I said, like, it's a very small bracket that you can compete in. Maybe 3, 4 years I can be at top. Fifth year, sixth year, someone else is gonna come. When I mean, in our Indian case, there were people coming up every year. So my idea was, in order to uplift our Indian esports community so that everyone is able to build a sustainable life. So that is how I started hosting events. And because I was already signed with some big organizations at that time, I could then reach out to people. Our platform reached like 1,000 entries in total, and some of our best tournaments who had like 100 to 200 people registering for a single event, which was pretty good at that time because no one else was doing that in South Asia. So I could then reach out to brands in Germany, and through that, Rush GG, one of the biggest esports hosting site, they decided to sponsor the event. I did this in partnership with one of my friends, esports friend, and we had like a 5,000 euros sponsorship for that, so which was good. So we both leverage our reputation along with the work we have done in order to get that. And my brother was mentioning about Red Bull. I did get a chance to work with Red Bull as well because Red Bull always wanted to be part of the FIFA esports scene. They didn't have a FIFA esports athlete at that time. So we decided to sort of create Beat the Pro challenge, where they can challenge anyone. Anyone can challenge the pro, and the winner will
Mhm.
probably get a can. Even if you lose, someone else is gonna get Red Bull can, and Red Bull is happy with that. And then I also helped them come up with a marketing campaign where I worked with a football player, FC Goa center back, and we created. It was COVID time. It was super difficult to do. We sort of created footballer versus FIFA challenge where he was sitting in a different city. I was sitting in a different city. It was COVID time. We had a camera, just one cameraman in my place and his place, and we decided to create these campaign. I mean, it was super difficult, but as I said, like it only happened gradually when I started showing people the result, and then while you're showing result, I was also competing at the top level, so it was easy for them to. I mean, I created that brand image of mine that yeah, I can work with that guy. While I was not able to
Mhm.
maybe deliver millions of view at that time, but at least I was able to help them with ideas at the same time execute them easily.
Amazing, man. Amazing. I mean, I wasn't even aware like of all the stuff that you did,
Yeah.
with brands. Look, you see this live talk was super useful also to know you
Yeah,
more. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
amazing. Also, your dad also says, Sagi, please also touch upon earning opportunities in esports worldwide. Is it encouraging for the budding talent to make it as a pro career?
Uh, so like the thing is like if you're in the cream of the cream, you're gonna earn enough
Mhm.
money to probably retire yourself within 3 years. I had teammates in Turkey. I had the opportunity to go to Istanbul, and their team was one of the best team in PUBG Mobile, and they won PUBG Mobile West Championship or East Championship. I don't remember. They used to
Mhm.
drive down in BMWs, had a own apartment in Istanbul at that time. Istanbul is an expensive place to stay into. So, but they were the best of the best. So I wouldn't say that this is a lifestyle that everyone will have. If you're extremely good at it, you're gonna have one of the best lifestyle you can have. And that is why I feel it is important for people to know where they stand. While I knew I was really good, while I knew I could compete globally, I got the chance to be at the World Cup. I also knew that I can't just depend on that to live a sustainable life. And that is why I think so it is important to balance out quality education along with the experience as an athlete. One more thing that I realized is while I was studying, I had no pressure at all. Like even if I was getting a salary from my org or not, I didn't care because I had
Mhm.
my education going. I can lose first round, Monday morning, wake up and go to university. The pressure starts to hit when you are doing that full time. And that is a pressure that a lot of people are not able to handle. So, one advice that I can for sure give is yes, you can make a lot of money. A lot of people have made so much amount of money. You can obviously do content, you can do so much things all together, but always have a backup plan. And that is why I think so education is super important.
Yeah, yeah. Especially like now more and more pro players in many video games. Some video games more than others. Okay, because some video games like if you're a pro, you can make a very good living, and
Yeah,
but like most pro players now are going into collegiate, like not as a
yeah,
retirement, but as a transition. Like
yeah,
now I'm gonna utilize my talent to finance my studies. and they go, if they want to study a master's, they can go into a coaching position, and get very good
Yeah.
deals, or do a bachelor's degree as a player, as well. Like it's
Yeah.
more and more, you're seeing that more and more, and because in some video games, not everyone, like the scene also is a bit unstable, and not everyone
Yeah.
is there at the top. Okay, so yeah, yeah, what are you saying? Yeah. Also, we have Aman Warsi say Sack Goat for a reason. Sack Goat. Okay, I'm
Uh,
I'm gonna keep that name.
no, yeah, he's one of the best players in India, and Aman, hi, welcome. Thanks for tuning in.
Also, again, Kevin, do you regret any school you may have missed because you were gaming instead? I know a lot of pros struggle with where to prioritize.
Oh, that is a good question, but I come from a family where education was the most important thing. Uh, Everyone, my mother holds two master degrees too herself, and we had everyone studying. So up until like last year of my university, pro gaming was not an option for me. I mean, not even in my mind, to be very honest. So luckily in that case, I have
Hmm.
had amazing time in school. Um, and that is what I used to advise people back home too. Compete, but don't miss out on college. College life is one of the best life you can, you learn so much. I'm not just talking in the sense of enjoying, but you
Hmm.
learn so much about human relations and how to work. Luckily, in my case, I have had good schooling life because obviously I won't say like pressurized into it, but like I knew that I needed to do it because I'm the younger brother. And when you see your brother is performing really well, when you've seen your parents perform well, grandparents perform well, you have no other option but to perform well yourself. So luckily in my case, that was not an issue, and I had a good schooling life. I had a good time even in Barcelona, so I'm happy with that.
Amazing. Another question from your brother. You're now at the top, recognized as one of the leading professional esport athletes globally. But it would be great if you could also speak about challenging times, the setbacks and the low points, since most people experience more failures than wins, of course. How can they stay motivated, not give up, and continue to work hard through those phases? Your perspective will really help others understand how to keep going and not lose loop.
Ooh, that's a good question. And since this is my brother asking, I'm not sure if he's asking me to accept on this stream how much I've raged. Yes, it is super difficult to, have Uh, I mean, I think so. I've lost more than I've won. Yes, I did get opportunity to be at two World Cups, but as I said, I did 8 years of my professional career, and I got my World Cup opportunity in seventh year. I was about to quit in sixth year. So it is super difficult. There is no guarantee. Just like in life, there is no guarantee about it. One
Hmm.
thing, yes, that has been taught by my family is you can uh, focus on the steps to reach the goal. I always focused on getting better as a player, being more presentable for the organizations, and trying to help people around us because I had really supportive people. I see a lot of guys here. I see Aman, I see Wayne, who's really helping me right now. To all of these guys, we had support. I had a very supportive community around me, and it was important for me to also accept that I had these people around me and not push them away. Difficulties, I did face a lot. There were challenges even when I had my best season as an athlete. There were negotiations with clubs. The team that I wanted to were only willing to put X amount of money while I was getting a lot of money from a different place. But that is a team that I was not really connected to. It was so you have so many challenges, like where you feel, damn, I've performed so well for the team that I loved so much, and they don't want to push their boundaries. These are some of the small things that no one talks about, like yes, everyone loses a lot of tournaments. I lost so many tournaments. I did break a few controllers. I'm ashamed of that, until I realized how expensive PlayStation 5 controllers are. So I realized that I needed to pay it by myself. Uh, but as I said, even at the start of the call, like I don't know much about culture here in Europe or North America, where you have esports right from a early age, young age. For us in India, I just was really I felt blessed to have a family who told me you can do something that you wanted to do, while everyone in my relative circle were blaming my parents of, throwing your child away and, not I mean, being stupid to let him do whatever he wants because life doesn't work like that. You need money to survive, you need things to do. So I took that as an added responsibility on me to not fail them. I could fail myself with my own personal challenges. I couldn't fail someone who trusted me to do things. So that is why, like, up until my esports career, it was all also a responsibility on me to do well for them. Now, as I'm transitioning into something else, it lies upon me to do the best I can, and it won't affect them in any ways. While obviously I'm their child and brother, but I think so I took an added pressure on me that someone is supporting me. I can't disappoint them.
Yeah, amazing. And again, I'm gonna say like one of the things that you mentioned about like having a backup plan, I think is
Yeah,
the most important thing. Like even if you never know what's gonna happen in esports or in your life. Having an education like a
yeah,
university degree, something that you can back up, uh, you know, pull back, or even if university is not for you, okay,
yeah.
but you want to be a pro player or a content creator and aspire for it, if you don't have a backup plan and you live it all, like the pressure that you mentioned, that
Yeah.
doing this full time and maybe it's not going to work or not, at the end it's going to affect you even more, and drown you more financially. So
And
yeah.
I think so now there are so many courses, you don't even need to be an engineer. A lot of people want to are studying courses for languages. I was having a word with someone who wanted to learn English and wanted to be part of the USA sponsor scholarship
Hmm.
team. There are so many opportunities out there in the world where you can learn so many different things. You don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to be a doctor. While yes, I was an engineer, and as you mentioned, my mom used to always tell me, even if you are gonna lose first round, if you don't get anyone to support you in your journey, you're an engineer. You can anyways pick up your civil engineering and start doing that. So I think so now we are at a space where there are so many more courses, and it is easier to also have a backup plan, of something that you like. Maybe if you like
Yeah.
arts, you can study arts while also competing. I think so. It's a good combination to have.
Yeah. I want to talking about courses. I want your opinion on something. With all those courses, not like focusing on esports and gaming courses.
Yeah.
There's a lot coming. Some that are good. What would you advise? Okay, uh, students that maybe players, coaches, and coaches, whatever. But what you would advise into what course to select, bachelor, masters, or specific
Oh,
certification of like 8 weeks, whatever. But like, what is the main factors that you would advise them that, okay, if they have like this 2 or 3 things, okay, do it.
okay, that is a good question. So I can suggest something that was told to me a few years ago when I was studying. Uh, it was in so one thing that I will suggest for sure is masters is a very important course. Like when I was studying, someone told me that you can do bachelor from anywhere, and you'll probably get work too. But master degree is probably the last degree for most people, and that is where people are gonna focus, when they see the resume, masters from here, because that's your last degree. If I was doing masters, I would try to focus on getting the best education possible. Second, if like we mentioned this before too, like it is important for a person to know how much can they handle a pressure situation. In my case, engineering was not easy, but I knew I could do it while competing. So if you can't handle that much pressure, and if you want to focus on maybe gaming, maybe take a course that is not so extensive as engineering. So, basically, point being, you need to understand what you want to do with your life. Like, do you want the best education, or do you want a mix of good education and good, maybe, I'm not just going to say gaming, could be good of maybe a social life. Like, for example, like if you wanted to enjoy life, you probably come to Barcelona and do a course just because some people just want to enjoy. So you need to first identify what you wanted. But if you really are super into your education background, I think so masters is a very important thing. And I would suggest getting it from the best universities is the most important thing. And I think so some of the best universities are in USA and Canada. And luckily, I'm having a chat with you. And I have a lot of my gaming friends out here who are in the same phase of transitioning. So I think so if you're looking into masters, there's no better place than USA and Canada. And
Yeah.
yeah, bachelor's is something that is also super important. Some people, start working right after bachelor's and then they don't get a chance to do masters. I'm not saying that don't focus on your masters, I mean bachelor's. But like if you've already decided, yeah, I need to do masters, I think so masters is a place that you need to be very serious about. Apart from that, I think so. Yeah, I think so. These are some of the most important things. And when we talk, I think so. If I get something, I'll tell you for sure.
Yeah, maybe you. I would mention as well the network, and that's something that when we find universities for students, what are the university like what are the companies the universities are associated with
Yeah,
for internships? Who are the
yeah,
teachers? Because like especially for masters,
yeah,
like the masters that you did, okay, it is one of the good things they have is like the industry professionals, that go
yeah,
do the lectures, and all that, all the connections that you have. So I would, yeah, the networking part, especially for a master's. And what you said, like what you did good is that you spent like 8 years before doing a master's, because like some
yeah,
people are like bachelor's, master's,
yeah,
and then in 5 years' time they end up working in something not related to their master's. I
yeah.
mean, you spend all
Absolutely,
this
yeah.
money, So I think
Right.
some years of like working experience of
Working.
like
So,
for trying new things to, as you said, focusing on what do you want in life, because
yeah.
I have bachelor students, okay, 90% don't know what they want to do afterwards.
Yeah.
You have that 10% that are super focused, like, yeah, I'm creating this event, I'm starting
Yeah.
this business, amazing. But but like wait to know what you want really in life to do a master's, because if not, it's gonna be
Yeah.
easy.
Absolutely.
And let's wrap up, okay, with a
For sure.
question, a last question. It comes from Calvin,
Yeah.
and he says, rematch of paddle when?
Before, as I think so, it's gonna be first, since we've got so many people already tuning to our streams. For those who are new here, do drop a follow to our Twitter, to our Instagram page, and also follow Ivan on LinkedIn. He hosts a lot of such sessions, which is really insightful. I'm gonna put up an option like once we have reached our goal, how about we do a live streaming of our gaming event, entire Esportian, and then I'm gonna beat Kevin yet again in front of all the people out here.
There you go. There you go. Amazing. Amazing. Okay. Sakky, a pleasure
Yeah,
to have you, man. We'll repeat soon because it was super valuable. Usually we keep the talks to like 30 minutes, but I was like,
yeah,
I don't care about the time,
yeah,
It was
yeah.
amazing. It was amazing, man. Okay. I guess I'll see you in 20 minutes in the
Right.
team meeting.
Likewise, likewise. Thanks everyone for tuning. Thanks, Ivan, for